Chapter 44. Long Distance Relationships. My relationship with my man had long been a long distance relationship because he worked most of the year in other cities or even in other countries like Costa Rica, Brazil, and Italy. He would come home mostly on weekends, especially when our children were little. He came from Brazil every 2 weeks, from Italy every 3 weeks. I also visited him in all these countries and enjoyed the visits. Even when I traveled to Israel every year with my girls, we were apart for between 2 weeks and a month. We were known as a flying couple. Every year to several places in the US and even in the world. Joel was very proud to tell our friends that we were only together 50% of the time. And that is what has kept our relationships going for so many years. Now, when Joel just retired, he still wants us to continue the tradition of being together 50% of the time. It didn't make much sense to me, but I'm slowly learning to get used to the new situation and see the good in it. When the girls grew up and became adolescents, became teenagers, Joel was able to work more in our city of Chicago because I think he had a nicer time with the girls. Or maybe simply because he was promoted and found more clients closer to where we lived. After I moved to Benin, we saw each other every 2 months. As I already mentioned, that was the limit we set for ourselves. I was afraid that if we were apart for more than 2 months, it would distance us too much mentally. Before every trip, mine or his, we always had a fight. I think it happened on purpose so that it would be easier for us to say goodbye. When you're angry, you don't want to see your partner. Only after you calm down and compromise do you start to miss them and are happy to meet again. There has always been love and appreciation between Joel and me. Even now, after 43 years of marriage, I've always craved his company. But he, although he enjoys my company, doesn't crave it all the time because he needs freedom. So it's always been easy for me to make decisions without consulting him. And I've always felt free to live my life as I wish. For example, I paint and participate in exhibitions. And he never objects to my actions because it doesn't particularly interest him and therefore doesn't support me. He didn't like Africa and wasn't attracted to staying there for more than 2 short visits of 2 weeks each. We have different tastes, so we don't have many expectations. We both have certain demands of each other. For example, he wants me to behave like an American and to observe all the accepted rules in society: to dress appropriately, to speak quietly, not to talk to strangers on the street or anywhere, and so on. I, on the contrary, want him not to make comments about my behavior. Since I'm a Sabra, born in Israel, I am more assertive and self-confident and do not need to be approved of everything I do or say. Of course, no one is perfect, and the fact that we have held together for 43 years indicates that we know how to compromise somehow and be grateful for all the good things we have. When we are far from each other, we miss each other very much and maintain daily contact by phone. When we meet after a split, then the joy is great and the relationship is good. The separation in Africa was longer term than usual, even though we met every 2 months. And perhaps because of this, the relationship did not immediately return to what it was before my trip. The reason, we believe, was especially due to the decision of Joel to stop taking the antidepressants he had been taking for about 3 years before my trip. With friends and family, I have been used to long-distance relationships since I was 12 years old, when I left Tel Aviv for kibbutz Gesher Haziv. I left the kibbutz after 2 years at the age of 14, when we went to Paris for more than 5 years to live again with my father, the painter, who had gone there before us to hold painting exhibitions. I especially kept in touch with my friend Gila, whom I met when I was 5 years old, all the years until we met again when I returned to the army from Paris. Unfortunately, my late Gilush passed away in the first week of the coronavirus. I still keep in touch with friends on the kibbutz, whom I see every few years. I also see my friends from the famous high school in Paris, École Alsacienne, every few years on my frequent visits to my beloved city. We often visit my friend Minou and her husband Francois, who unfortunately also lost his beloved wife, who passed away shortly before the coronavirus began. We now live between Israel and Chicago, and as a result, all of our relationships are long-distance relationships, sometimes with friends in Israel and sometimes with friends in Chicago. In addition, we are also far from our daughters, and now also from our 3 tiny granddaughters, who live in 3 different states. The distance is even greater today because of the coronavirus. It is difficult for many people, not just us. But here too, I set boundaries and try not to go more than a year without seeing our descendants.